All right, so ever dream of designing those games that get the casino floor buzzing? We're about to up your game today.
We're going deep on what it takes to be a gambling games designer. We're using some really insightful stuff from RoleCatcher's Career Guide and interview prep materials, by the way.
Think of this as, I don't know, like a cheat sheet. So, yeah, not only get the job, but really knock their socks off.
It's really a fascinating field, blends creativity, strategy, and really getting inside the player's head.
And that's where RoleCatcher comes in, right? Gives you that extra edge by tailoring your approach to the actual company and the role. Like, it's almost like having a poker face, but for your resume and your interview skills.
Exactly. Okay, picture this. You're face-to-face with a hiring manager, right? They ask you, walk me through your design process for a new gambling game. What's your play?
Okay, so they're not messing around. Right off the bat, they want to know you've got a system, not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Exactly. I get inspired and then boom, magic.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
They want to see a structured approach. It's almost like you're taking them on a journey.
So you'd start with research.
Yeah.
Right? Like a detective, you're gathering clues about the players, what's hot in the market.
Exactly. What are players looking for? What are the trends? What are competitors doing well? And where are the gaps that you can jump into?
Makes sense. You wouldn't design like a retro arcade game when everyone's going crazy for those VR casinos. Speaking of which, RoleCatcher actually helped me spot some really cool VR casino trends for a project I was working on. It's wild how their AI digs into actual job descriptions and industry news to keep you ahead of the game.
It's all about staying ahead of the curve, right? But back to our interview question. So, research, check. Then you move on to ideation, right? This is where you let that creative flag fly.
So how do you explain that brainstorming process without sounding, too out there?
Focus on the steps. Do you sketch your ideas out? Mind maps. What about building simple prototypes to test things out? Show them you have a method to the madness.
And then comes testing, right? You got to get feedback from real players to see if your brilliant idea actually, well, works.
And it's not just about them liking it, but why? Do they get the rules? Is it engaging? What's the feedback loop like? This is where you show off that analytical side.
So you'd talk about the data you're tracking, how you make sense of the feedback, and how you actually use it to make the design better.
Exactly. Show them you're adaptable, data-driven, not just married to that first idea.
Now, this next question feels like you're walking a tightrope. How do you make sure your game doesn't break any legal or regulatory rules? Yikes.
That's a big one, for sure. Hiring managers want to see that you're not just creative, but responsible. This industry, you got to take it seriously.
Right, because designing a game that accidentally breaks the law is, well, game over for your career.
Exactly. Honesty and knowledge are key here. No bluffing on this one. Know your gambling regulations inside and out.
But what if you're interviewing for a gig in a place you're not familiar with? Laws are different everywhere, right? State to state, country to country.
That's where you show them you're adaptable, ready to learn. Highlight that you're all about staying up to date on industry standards, and you're eager to learn the specific rules of their game, so to speak.
So it's like saying, I might not have memorized every rule book, but I'm a quick study, and I take compliance seriously.
Exactly. And this is where knowing about responsible gaming practices can really make you shine.
Okay, let's move on. This next one feels like a balancing act. How do you balance making it fun for the player with making it profitable?
Ah, the age-old dilemma. You want people to have a blast, keep coming back for more, but the game has to make money, right?
Right, you want the excitement, those big wins that get people hooked, but also a business model that actually makes sense.
Exactly. And that's what you got to get across in your answer. Acknowledge the tension between those two, and then explain how you walk that line.
So how do you actually say that without sounding like you're either ripping off players or making a game that's boring as heck?
Focus on being fair. Players need to feel like they have a real shot at winning, that it's not rigged. But you, as the designer, you've got to build in a house edge to ensure profitability over time.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, right? Where players are entertained, they can win, but the house isn't going bankrupt.
Exactly. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI is amazing. It can actually help you strike that balance in your answers. For example, it might suggest you talk about projects where you successfully made it fun and profitable.
That's seriously helpful. Instead of just saying, I'm good at this, you're showing them with actual examples tailored to the job.
Precisely. It's showing, not telling. Speaking of showing, let's talk about a question that lets you brag a little. Tell me about a successful gambling game you designed. What made it a hit?
Okay, time to toot your own horn. But how do you pick the right example?
Choose a project that fits the job you're going for. If it's a mobile game design job, talking about your award-winning slot machine might not be the best move.
So tailor your story. And when you're telling it, don't just say, it was successful. Get specific.
For sure. What were the challenges you faced? Did you come up with any really innovative solutions? And most importantly, what data or feedback do you have to back up your success story?
So instead of saying people loved it, you'd say something like, we had 20% higher player retention than expected, and it brought in X amount of revenue in the first few months.
Now you're talking. Those are the kind of numbers that really make your success undeniable.
Okay, let's tackle a teamwork-focused question. How do you work with other teams, like marketing or the development team, when you're designing a game?
This is a big one. Game design is rarely a solo thing. They want to see you're a team player, someone who can collaborate effectively with people from different worlds.
So being a lone wolf design genius isn't enough, huh? Gotta play nice with others.
Exactly. Highlight your communication skills. Can you give and receive feedback without freaking out? Can you find creative solutions that make everyone happy?
It's like conducting an orchestra, right?
Yeah.
Bringing all these different instruments together to make beautiful music, or in this case, a killer game.
I like that. And again, RoleCatcher can help you craft awesome answers that show you're all about teamwork. Their AI might point you to specific projects where you rocked it with cross-functional teams.
It's like having a personal PR team, shaping your interview story. Speaking of stories, let's take a quick break to gather our thoughts. We'll be right back with more challenging interview questions and explore how RoleCatcher can help you ace them. And we're back, folks, ready for more insider tips on absolutely crushing that gambling games designer interview.
Let's jump right back into the thick of it. So imagine this. You're in the hot seat, right?
Yeah.
And the interviewer hits you with this curveball. How would you incorporate those cutting-edge technologies, like virtual reality, into your designs?
Oh, wow, that's a big one. I can already picture myself in a virtual casino feeling that roulette wheel spin. The future is now.
Exactly. It shows you're not just designing for today, you're thinking about the future of gaming.
But how do you walk that line, right?
Yeah.
Between sounding like, I don't know, some kind of tech wizard and actually having practical ideas?
Well, start by mentioning a few key emerging technologies that really get you going, and this is important, relate to gambling. Virtual reality, augmented reality, blockchain, those are really shaking things up.
Right, but don't just throw it around like a buzzword salad.
Exactly. Give them some juicy examples, like how could VR take poker night to a whole new level, make you feel like you're right there with the high rollers? Or could AR turn your kitchen table into a blackjack tournament with your buddies?
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see how this goes way beyond just flashy tech. It's about using it to create totally new experiences.
Exactly. And don't forget the practical side. Things like how much will it cost to develop, will players actually be able to access it, and even potential regulatory headaches.
So you're showing them you've thought about the whole package, not just the ooh, shiny stuff.
Precisely. Speaking of the whole package, let's talk inclusivity. A question that often pops up is, how do you make sure your games are accessible to all sorts of players?
Oh man, that's so crucial. Games should be for everyone. And I imagine there are a ton of things to consider, from language barriers to different abilities.
You hit the nail on the head. This is where your empathy and your research skills really come in handy. You have to show that you've thought about all kinds of players with different backgrounds, preferences, and needs.
So how do you talk about that without sounding like you're just checking boxes?
Talk about your process. Do you actually go out and do user research with diverse groups of players? Do you design with accessibility in mind right from the start, building in things like adjustable difficulty levels, customizable interfaces, or even offering the game in multiple languages?
So it's about showing them you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk when it comes to inclusivity.
Exactly. And if you've worked on a project where you really tackled accessibility head-on, that's a story worth telling.
It's all about showing, not just telling, right?
Right. And speaking of walking the walk, let's move on to a question that really tests your commitment to staying ahead of the curve. How do you stay up to date with industry trends and actually work them into your designs?
Okay, so no resting on your laurels in this business. The gaming world moves fast. New trends, new tech, players changing what they like. It's a lot to keep up with.
That's why this question is a biggie. They want to see that you're passionate, curious, and you're actively hunting down new knowledge.
So I read a lot isn't going to cut it. How do you actually prove you're plugged into what's happening in the industry?
Think about how you get your industry info. Do you subscribe to all the cool magazines and online publications, attend those big conferences and webinars, follow the movers and shakers on social media?
It's like being a trend detective,
Yeah.
right? Always hot on the trail of what's next.
Exactly. And don't just rattle off your sources. Share something you learned recently. Did a talk at a conference spark a cool new game concept? Did a random social media thread give you an idea for a killer game mechanic?
It's about making that connection between getting information and using it in your designs.
And don't forget about the power of networking. If you mention that you're chatting with other professionals at events or online, it shows you're part of the conversation, always down to learn and grow.
And that's where RoleCatcher can really change the game, am I right? Their platform is like a treasure chest of industry resources, links to articles, info about upcoming conferences, even relevant professional groups.
It's like having your own personal roadmap for staying ahead of the game. And let's not forget their AI-powered feedback. RoleCatcher's Copilot actually looks at how you answer questions like this and suggests ways to make your answers even more impactful.
So they might suggest you mention that forum you're part of, or recommend you brush up on a specific game development software.
You got it. It's all about giving you that something extra to help you really stand out.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking about what it really takes to break into the world of gambling games design, from having the right skills to nailing those crucial interview questions.
We've covered a ton, but there's one last question that tends to trip people up.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Hit me with it. What's this tricky final question?
All right, so imagine it's getting towards the end of the interview, and they ask you, tell me about a time you had to change your design based on feedback or some unexpected problems.
Okay, so it's not just about having a killer idea. It's about being able to roll with the punches, showing you can handle it when things get tough.
Exactly. Everyone loves to talk about their wins, but this question is all about how you deal with the bumps in the road.
So how do you answer that honestly without sounding like you're either passing the buck or admitting to a total disaster?
The key is to pick a specific time where you faced a real challenge while you were designing. Maybe playtesters found a way to cheat the system, or maybe there was a technical issue that meant you had to rethink a major part of the game.
So you're not afraid to face the music, you're tackling it head on.
Exactly. Walk them through how you handled it, how did you approach the problem, what were some of the solutions you considered, and, this is important, what did you learn from that whole experience?
So it's a chance to show off your problem-solving skills, your adaptability, and how you actually grow from those setbacks.
Exactly. And make sure you end on a high note. Did your solution make the game more fun to play? Did it run more smoothly? Or was it more accessible to more players?
It's about turning that initial challenge into a win. And I bet RoleCatcher could be a big help in shaping how you tell that story.
Absolutely. Their AI could look at your past work and pick out projects where you successfully navigated those unexpected roadblocks. It might even suggest ways to tell your story that really highlight the specific skills that the employer is looking for.
Like having a personal interview coach, helping you put your best foot forward.
Precisely. Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of gambling games design, I think it's important to remember that RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon throughout your whole job hunt.
From polishing your resume to rocking those interview questions, it's like having a whole team of career experts on your side.
And those AI-powered tools are designed to give you a personalized edge, tailoring everything to each company and role you're going for.
So whether you're just starting out or looking to level up in your career, RoleCatcher can help you stack the deck in your favor.
Now get out there, unleash that creativity, design responsibly, and who knows, maybe your game will be the next big thing.
And hey, remember, the Deep Dive is always here to arm you with the knowledge and insights you need to leave your mark on the world. Catch you next time.